Welcome to Assistant on Air, where we have conversations with people that build for Google Assistant. I'm Jessica, and I'm your host today. Today we'll be chatting with Yuksal, who is a Google developer expert for Google Assistant. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit more about what you do.
I am a full-time lawyer, so my day job is about law. Yeah, I go to court and trials. But I also am a part of GDG Ankara, the GDG community near to me. And I do talks and sessions and workshops about Google Assistant mostly. And I try to contribute to the community and let them know that Google Assistant is another platform that they can develop for. And also I want to encourage them to think more about VUIs and how they can use to improve their services or businesses.
That's awesome, especially because you come from a law background, like that blend of like having that and technology. I'm sure your perspective is very unique.
Yeah, I think conversational platforms and VUIs are really great for interdisciplinary work. So I try to implement what I already know from my day job to conversation design and maybe even the problem-solving aspects of the job.
That is fantastic. So I know you do a lot of talks, and I know you have a specialty in regards to that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I am the only Google developer expert on Assistant in Turkey right now. So people really are excited about the Assistant, especially ever since it started supporting Turkish. And that's why they want to have sessions about it. And I cannot never tell no to a GDG community inviting me. So I have been to 9 cities in the last 2 months.
Wow.
During IVD season. And I have done like 10 talks, I guess. Yeah, that's true. And people are really excited, and I am really excited to tell them about it because they always ask the questions that I have never thought of.
Yeah. Like what kind of questions are they asking?
The questions have evolved with the community. First, they were just asking if you already have a mobile app, why would we have an assistant, action? And then it started to get more technical. Things like how would I fulfill such and such action on my server? And I even get some genre-specific questions. Some people want to develop for voice because of accessibility needs, or maybe they try to overcome the language barrier and they ask me specific questions, and they're really nice too.
No, that's fantastic. It's really great that you're there to support that community and be able to educate them and then get that feedback and to keep growing with them. That's fantastic.
I'll try to do my best.
No, I really appreciate it. And I love the fact that you really focus on accessibility in regards to making things available in multiple languages too, because that's something that's really important to be able to talk to your action in your native tongue too. So can you tell me a little bit more about internationalization?
Of course. I mean, it's actually one of the things that I'm most excited about because before Google Assistant started supporting Turkish, the only people who were interested were like professionals that knew that this was coming. But after the launch, after Google started, having assistant commercials over YouTube, people really started to be interested. And we have obviously translated the workshops afterwards, and we started creating localized actions. And in some of the communities, they actually used their own style of communication while writing the strings. So it was the action was actually talking like them. So they left, and they felt closer to the platform, and that made them better developers for the platform. So internationalization is really important for what I try to do.
Oh my gosh, totally. Because I know even when I make my first actions, I make it to where it sounds like me, or it sounds like something I would want to hear, because that represents my population too. So I could totally see from that community the fact that they're making their own actions sound like them. That's fantastic.
Yes. Because VUIs are all about emotions, and people do feel connected when they hear something talking like them.
Totally. So I would love to ask you a question in regards to when you're translating an action. What are some things that you've noticed when it comes to the conversation design, and how it might not just be a literal like get the string and translate directly, because that doesn't always come out right, or at least not show the same expressions.
That's exactly true. This was something actually I've noticed on novel and TV show subtitles or translations. I grew up reading Harry Potter in my native language, and its translation to Turkish is actually acknowledged by J.K. Rowling was one of the best translations of it, because translators put too much thought into made up words, and they try to make it sound like the Turkish. So it was really good. And when I'm translating an action, specifically the GDG GDG action you guys have made. I remembered that and thought, this translation is correct, but it's not Turkish. We wouldn't say it like this. We would probably put it in a different way. And I started to think like I'm designing the conversation from scratch without actually affecting the experience, but trying to make the action sound familiar to the Turkish users.
Yeah, and that is so important. I could definitely see even big major brands, like they need to be aware of that, because it's not just for like our GDG actions, it's for every action.
Exactly, and our GDG action has a persona that is rather easy to translate because we try to be inclusive,
Exactly.
But if you have a brand that has a specific persona, then you're gonna have a harder time translating it because the words are gonna change drastically.
Oh, definitely. So that it sounds like that we need to spend a lot more time also on the translation and making sure that that's good, because I could definitely see if a user's using your action and doesn't express the same emotions, it's not going to be the best experience. Ultimately.
Exactly. Because you can translate a button. Everybody can translate a button, but you can't really translate a conversation if you really don't feel the emotions or make the user feel them.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to translation on the technical side, what are the things that people should be mindful of, or what have you noticed that things should be structured in a certain way? Because I'm assuming you don't want if I wrote an action in English, you don't want the English in the code itself, because that'd be hard to translate, because you don't want multiple files of code. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, obviously, as any technical products, I always recommend people to separate their strings into a JSON file or maybe another JavaScript file, because I work with JavaScript, so they can easily translate it when the time comes. I actually started thinking about this with my first action. I separated strings and started doing that, and my friend was like, "Why are you doing that? It would be so much easier to put it in the code." And I was like, "It's going to be Turkish eventually, so I should better think ahead and separate them." So I always recommend separating the strings. Plus, it's also so much easier to see them all in one screen and see the conversation flow, on the screen. So you can think about the next step of the conversation and the previous step of the conversation while you're translating, because that matters. The context really matters.
That's very true. I didn't even think about that part. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me again. This was great.
We hope that you liked today's show. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, please leave comments below. Follow us on Twitter for updates and new episodes. I've been Jessica. Chat with you next time.